Hello, everyone. Welcome to Shelf Space with Kino Lorber, where we talk about all things physical media with Kino Lorber's head of acquisitions, Frank Tarzi. Today, we have a truly, truly legendary director with us today. He directed one of my favorite movies of all time, Sid and Nancy. He's also the director of cult classic Repo Man, as well as Walker, Straight to Hell, Highway Patrolman, and a bunch of other movies you should be watching. He is Alex Cox. Welcome, Alex. He
Thank
and
you.
Frank will be answering your questions. So thank you to everyone who submitted a question ahead of time. If you would like to submit a question for a future episode, be sure to sign up for our newsletter to get on the email list. And also be sure to subscribe to our Kino Lorber YouTube channel. If you have a customer service question, please submit those at the link in the video description below. So welcome, Alex. I'm so excited to have you on the show. I'm so excited to be talking to you. Like I said, Sid and Nancy is one of my favorite movies of all time. Watched it multiple times. I dressed as Nancy Spungen for Halloween twice. Had a
Whoa.
poster in college, the whole nine yards. So I'm really excited to be talking to you.
Well,
But
thank you.
we like to start every episode by asking this question. Alex and Frank, how did you guys meet? How do you know each other? And how have you been working together?
Well, I've been a fan of Alex's for a long, long time, and you love Sid and Nancy, I love Repo Man, and I love Sid and Nancy is a really great film too, but it's a little depressing for me. So, but overall, I would say Repo Man is the one that really, and then Walker, I love that one too, and of course the ones that we released, Highway Patrolman, and I remember actually Highway Patrolman. I remember when it played at Film Forum, I was working at Kim's Video, and I got the Japanese Laserdisc.
Oh,
So we would we were selling the Japanese laserdisc, and in those days, at Kim's, we tend to sometimes create VHS tapes for rental from the laserdisc. So we were actually offering that film very, very early on before it got any kind of American distribution.
excellent.
And so I was always a fan of that movie. So when Alex and I met, I mean, I remember when I got the Great Silence DVD release, I was surprised, to see Alex on the disc, and then I did research and I found out he had done this great, book about spaghetti westerns and everything else. So when I started acquiring a lot of westerns and spaghetti westerns, I reached out to Alex. I think the first film I reached out to you, Alex, was not a real spaghetti western, but kinda is inspired by,
Shalako.
I mean, Shalako. You could see it was like one of those films that was kind of inspired by spaghetti westerns. It's like the darker late 60s, 70s kind of westerns that were made during that time that were made, even something like The Hunting Party was not,
Yeah.
it's not a typical spaghetti western, but it has a feel of a spaghetti western. The music and some of the over top acting and everything else. But so Shalako was the first
there
one
were
we
all
worked
those
on.
American films and some British films as well that were made in Spain or in the US that were like kind of revisionist westerns that came after the Italian western, like The Hunting Party and some of the films that we did commentaries for. That one with David Jansen, where he's the lone guy against all, and there were a lot of Culpeper
Something
Cattle
like, I would say
Company,
even like Soldier Blue, maybe.
Soldier Blue, Barquero.
Yeah, what was
Barquero
the
is
one
the
that I
number
released
one.
with Jansen? I forget the name of that one.
I'm spacing the name of it too, but I know the one. It was made in Mexico, and Pedro Armendariz Jr. is also in it, and it's good,
I
but it's very
mean,
dark. It's got a
even
very
Clint
dark
Eastwood,
aspect to it
Clint Eastwood's I High Plains Drifter is very
in that
much,
vein.
kind of a homage to his Leone films, So,
Yes.
So post spaghetti western, revisionist, almost kind of like Western new wave.
Yeah, like a new
that
wave
kind
of
correct?
westerns. Which I mean, and Peckinpah was part of it. Peckinpah with the
Right.
Wild Bunch and Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid and the wonderful movie with with Warren Oates, Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia.
yeah,
It's sort of like a spaghetti western, American western,
yeah, that was kind
Mexican
of
western.
that was kind of a modernized western, but it was but it
Yeah.
was really, without a doubt, it was inspired by those types of films.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
So how did this
And by Jodorowsky and by Buñuel. I mean, it's really a remarkable film.
and this led to you guys working together, this shared love a Western. Sorry, I missed that part about how you initially reached
Well, I
out.
reached out to Alex, and of course he agreed to do Shalako. And then since then, I think he's done dozens of titles for us. He's done commentaries for a lot of more,
Oh, right.
and one of the things
And
that,
also and non-Westerns too, because we're also
yeah,
Illustrious Corpses. I did the
yeah, you
commentary
did
for
Illustrious
Illustrious
Corpses,
Corpses.
and
That's great.
yeah, I know you've always been also interested in more of doing commentaries for like that, the Italian crime movies and all those other things. And
Late
um,
Pesci.
I know that you've been a big fan of Barquero. You know, you've asked me to reacquire
Oh
that,
yeah,
and we are going to reacquire it next year, hopefully. And
excellent.
then Mr. Cox is going to do record a brand new commentary for it, and maybe even on location.
I think so, because a friend of mine in Boulder has found the location where they filmed Barquero, and the story is, it's these guys. The Barquero is like a guy who has a river crossing, the ferryman who goes back and forth, and so he controls the narrative, because the bad guys are on one side of the river and they have to reach the other side. And apparently, this was filmed not on a river but a reservoir in southern Colorado. So, and my buddy says he's found the location, so we'll go down there and
Yeah,
film some of it, see what it looks like.
another one of those films inspired by the spaghetti westerns. And Gordon Douglas, underrated director who
Yeah.
made a lot of really good films. And of course, that
Yeah.
movie has two icons in it. Lee Van Cleef and Warren Oates. So
Happy birthday, Lee Van Cleef.
what is his
Is
birthday?
it his birthday
It's his birthday
today?
today. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's awesome.
Excellent. Happy birthday,
Not when this
Louie.
airs, but
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was a huge fan of Lee Van Cleef's. Even something like The Master, I enjoyed so much watching, and I eventually acquired that from CBS, and we released the TV series.
Great. I interviewed him when I was a student at UCLA. I contacted his agent and said I wanted to do a project about Lee Van Cleef, and I went out to his house, which was in Tarzana, and I interviewed him about his career.
What
That
was he
pretty
like?
cool. Very nice. He was very nice. He was a little bit drunk. But I think a lot of old Hollywood actors sit around in their bar, But he was very nice. He was very pleasant.
Oh, wow.
Seemed like a good guy.
Seems very intimidating just from the types of roles he's played. So
Oh yes.
to hear he's nice.
Yeah. No, he's very nice.
We're very, very proud to have Straight to Hell and Highway Patrolman in our catalog on Blu-ray. So what was it like for you guys working on those and making the bonus features for those?
Well, the best. I mean, for me, the best thing about the Straight to Hell re-release is the aspect ratio, because it's the first time the film's been digitally available in the correct CinemaScope aspect ratio, which we shot it in. So that was really great for me.
Well, of course, I
think?
gave Alex, carte blanche, whatever he wanted to do as far as fixing, there was, of course, the aspect ratio was one of those things, but all the great extras that we included on the disc, and the new restoration, and the artwork that we created for Highway Patrolman, that I know Alex you also approved. So so we had a really great time releasing those.
Okay, so oh, go ahead. Sorry.
And they're good films. They're good films. I'm glad that you're releasing them. Thank you.
Straight to Hell, the core cast is already a music lover, punk lover's dream cast, but then you have all these other people. You have members of the Circle Jerks, Xander Schloss, you have the Pogues, you have Grace Jones, and then also Dennis Hopper and your longtime collaborators, Miguel Sandoval, Cy Richardson, and I should mention the core cast is Joe Strummer, Courtney Love. How in the world did you get all these legendary people in one movie?
We were going to make a rock and roll tour of Nicaragua. We were going to dress one of the cast, Ed Pansula. We were going to dress him up as William Walker and have, William Walker Rock and Roll Nicaragua Tour, 1986. And and it was going to include the Pogues, Joe Strummer, Elvis Costello.
Elvis.
And they were all committed in the month of August of 1986 to go on this rock and roll tour, which we were going to fund through like selling the video rights or selling a TV sale to the documentary about it. And we couldn't get any interest. We couldn't generate any interest in that project in London or in or in the States or anywhere. And then it was very embarrassing because all these people had committed their time, had made themselves available for the entire month of August, thinking that they were going to go on the tour, on rock and roll tour in Nicaragua. And so the producer of the film, Eric Fellner, said, I think if you could come up with a script really quickly, maybe we could get money for a feature using Joe Strummer and the Pogues and Elvis Costello, etc. And that's what happened. So amazingly, so Dick Rude and I wrote the screenplay in just a couple of days. And then Eric was able to raise $1 million to make that film.
That is an incredible story. I had no idea. So the impetus was this tour, and then the film was kind of like the end result. That's actually very serendipitous.
Yeah, because we had to do something. It was. And then it added other people. Then we added Edward Tudor and Courtney and the Amazulu and Dennis and Grace Jones. So it became even more crazy.
Amazing. So I know that you guys want to talk spaghetti westerns, but I really want to ask about your other area of expertise, which is punk rock. So many of your movies are inspired by punk rock. They feature punk rock music, like Repo Man, obviously Sid and Nancy, about one of the most legendary punk rock bands in history. And every greatest punk rock films list out there will inevitably have one or two Alex Cox films, on the list. So how does it feel to be sort of like a punk icon in the film world? And do you consider yourself to be one?
No, I'm more just a recorder of the thing. I mean, I was very into the philosophy of it, the philosophical aspect of punk and the homemade do-it-yourself, death to the corporations thing. I thought that was all great, but I was never really a musical person. So I was more a recorder of, or a cataloger of the process. And now we're coming up, like Julian Temple was, with The Great Rock and Roll Swindle and Absolute Beginners and his other work, And so, but the 50th anniversary of punk is coming up. And yesterday, a producer out of the blue, sent me a book that he's optioned. It's the story of the Clash from the point of view of the guy who drove the van. That they went around and did. And it's 300 pages long. And I started reading it yesterday. It's actually really good. I was amazed because I thought it was just going to be so boring and stupid, but it's actually very interesting. He really paints the four members of the band very individually. And so it's interesting. So who knows? Maybe I'll get hired to write a script about the history of the Clash.
I think you should absolutely do that. I think if anybody tells the story of the Clash, it should be you. And I mean, rest in peace, Joe Strummer. Wish he could be part of it, but I think you should definitely tell that story.
And I think in a way it has to be, I mean, even though I knew Joe pretty well and I know Mick Jones a little bit, but you want to have somebody that's separate from it, because otherwise it's too difficult. And that's why the Keith Moon film never happened, the drummer of The Who. That was a great story, but it never got made, partially because Roger Daltrey was the executive producer. And so he had his own vision of the thing because he was in The Who.
Too close to it.
He was too close to it, and he and Pete Townsend owned the music, so you have to have their permission and their goodwill in order to make that film.
Frank, did you grow up listening to punk?
Yeah, I was never really big. I mean, I like the Clash. I like some songs by them, some of the music from them, but I mean, of course, from that era, from that CBGB time, it was Blondie, and being from New York, it was like, for me, it was like the Talking Heads and the people like that. Those were the ones that I was more fans of. I was never a big, the really noisy stuff I could not get into. But yeah, of course, The Who is one of the great rock bands that I'm not a big fan of. Like considered one of the great rock. I know that without a doubt, that Keith Moon is one of the top 3 greatest drummers of all time. That I know, because there's anybody that doesn't recognize that doesn't really understand anything about drumming. But he was one of the greatest, and he was considered to be a little crazy. So and lived a short life, unfortunately. So
If you like, I will send you the script that my wife Todd and I wrote about Keith Moon for Roger Daltrey. And it's a really good script. It might be the best script that we ever wrote.
Wow.
But we didn't. We made sort of a mistake in not realizing that if a powerful and important person is paying the bills, they need to look good in the film. They need to have a primary role, and we neglected that.
So this is why sometimes you need separation of church and state, so that you can have your full creative artistic license without the subject kind of like getting in the way of that.
Daltrey should have been the director, actually. If Daltrey had been the director of the film, then it would have been a perfect relationship, because he could have just come back to us and said, "No, I don't like this. I want that,"
Yeah.
and that would have been a great relationship, actually.
Actually, I have a question about your screenwriting process. So I'm an actor and screenwriter myself, and I'm very curious to hear what your process is like. What kinds of where you get your story inspiration from, what kind of characters you like to write. Obviously, we've seen it's mostly kind of like outcast types and going against the grain types. And also the casting process. What kind of qualities do you look for in an actor?
Oh, wow. Boy, there were several questions there, weren't there? What kind of qualities in an actor? They got to be interesting. They got to entertain you. I mean, if they do a reading or an audition, then there's got to be something that sticks out at you. I don't know what it is. Maybe they're just perfect for the part, or maybe they're completely surprising and not what you expected at all. But you think, well, hey, that's a different way to go.
Mm.
On this movie that I just made, Dead Souls, one of the actors in his audition, he whispered all his dialogue. He whispered the whole thing. He
That's
never
a
raised his
choice.
voice above a whisper. After we'd auditioned or read about 12 actors for this part, and at the end of it, all I can think is, what about the whisperer? Maybe we should bring the whisperer in,
Sometimes
And it was great.
memorable is what books
Yeah,
roll.
yeah. And so he said, well, how should I do it? So he cast him, and I said, how should I do this? And I go, oh, just do that. Keep doing that whispering thing, And so
So he defined the character right there, basically.
the whisperer,
Yeah,
the
the
whisperer.
whisperer.
Levy Duplay is his name, the actor, and he's a very good actor and very smart.
Oh, nice. Speaking of actors, I read somewhere that the role of Sid Vicious, it was down between Gary Oldman and Daniel Day-Lewis, which, I mean, both iconic, like some of the best, two of the best actors, in the world. What made you go with Gary Oldman in the end?
Because they were neither of them very famous at that time. And so they were young actors in London. And I think what Gary projected was the determination to get out of Bermondsey, to get out of a rather miserable working class existence in South London and be something. And that was Sid Vicious, but that
Mm,
was also Gary. They were
yeah.
from the same part of London. They were both from Bermondsey,
Oh, wow.
and they both wanted to get the heck out, and go to America, go live in America, And so Gary had that, the ambition. And what Daniel Day-Lewis had more of, I think, was the romantic aspect, the leading man, the swain. I think he could have projected more of that. But in the end, I thought Gary projects that desperate determination, which also had to be part of Sid Vicious's short-lived character.
I think you made the right choice. I think I can't picture anybody else in that role now. I mean, I think he is he's more Sid Vicious than Sid Vicious in a lot of ways. Like when I picture Sid Vicious, I almost picture Gary Oldman first because of your
His genius is the best roles he's played are when he's had some material to work with in the way of, say, audiovisual, like playing Lee Harvey Oswald.
Yeah.
He could see the tapes or the film footage of Lee Harvey Oswald, under arrest, and when he played Churchill. And again, there's a lot of film footage of Winston Churchill that he was able to I wouldn't say mimic, because it's better than that. It's not mimicking, but he's able to use that original source material to create his character.
I mean, as great as Daniel Day-Lewis is, and he's without a doubt, one of the greatest of all time. I think Gary Oldman was also right up there, and I think he was the perfect choice to play Sid Vicious. I mean, his performances in some of those movies that he's made. I mean, he's always great, and even if the film is not very good, Gary Oldman is always great in the film, you know. And State of Grace, I think he gives like an incredible performance in that. Like he's in a movie with with Sean Penn and Ed Harris and all these other, and he's the one that really stands out in that film, you know. So
Yeah, he's truly
And the film he directed as well. The film he directed, Nil by Mouth. It's very good film.
yes.
Very good acting.
Yeah, I remember that was a very popular film when I was at during the days at Kim's Video. That was very popular film. So
Alex, you kind of like launched his career. How does it feel to have launched Gary Oldman's career? Because that was really his first film role, right? Sid and Nancy.
Yeah.
That's,
But
I mean,
it would have been the same with Daniel Lewis if I'd
yeah,
cast him. It would have been his
you
first
would-
film role. So that's just the way. I mean,
pretty cool to see.
you know, it's just like, I mean, Ed Harris had been in one feature film as a lead before Walker. But it was really, I think, Walker that moved him from being an actor to being a movie star. And Harry Dean. Harry Dean Stanton had never had a lead role, never got any respect until Repo.
Well, he used to play. He was the bad guy in a Charles Bronson film called Borderline.
Oh yeah,
1980. He got second billing, and he was the heavy. You know, he was the
yeah.
So, and he was like of course he got the right stuff and stuff after, but he was he's another great actor. So
Ed Harris is wonderful.
So yeah, you
Fantastic.
launched all these careers, and I mean, essentially, kind of maybe Courtney Love too, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, like you. This is like kind of you have this magic touch, basically.
Well, no, I mean I think they were all people that wanted that, weren't they? They were all people that wanted to be famous. You know, it doesn't happen by accident. You have to work at it.
True, very
And
true.
Courtney never stopped. I mean, Courtney was going to be a musician or a singer or a songwriter or an actor or something. She was going to be something, you know.
I know she
And she
wanted the
was.
role of Nancy originally, right? But you cast her as a smaller role in Sid and Nancy.
Because she really had no acting experience. I mean, she was a very good natural actor, but she was also a bit younger than Gary. And given that he was an experienced stage actor, I felt that she would be overshadowed by him.
Yeah.
Whereas Chloe, who played the part, was an also experienced stage actor. She'd been around a bit and wasn't going to be, you know, dominated or put in second place.
Right, and she was excellent as Nancy.
Yes, wonderful.
I feel like we do need to talk about Walker in light of current events. And I saw that you've been following, the Venezuela situation closely and writing about it on your website. And then you made, Walker about William Walker, who basically, staged a coup in Nicaragua and declared himself president. Have you always been interested and fascinated by American interventionism and imperialism, and particularly in Latin America, or how did that come about?
Really, what got me interested in that was my friend Lorenzo O'Brien, who when I went to UCLA, a Cuban student called Ramon Menendez, who was also a film director. He directed Stand and Deliver many years later. Ramon took me to the International Student Center, and we knew where there was a disco and you could meet people, try and find girls, this kind of thing. And he introduced me to this guy called Lorenzo O'Brien. And this guy was from Peru. He was a very interesting guy, thoroughly bilingual. And he had such interesting stories to tell about Latin America and about what went on, what had gone on in his country, what had gone on in Mexico, because he'd been educated in Mexico City at the time of, the great massacre of students and people in Tlatelolco. And these were all stories I'd never heard. And so I think it was really Lorenzo that turned me on to the alternate reality of Latin America, which continues to this day, continues to this very day. The sort of the mad vision that the media have of Latin America and what goes on there, and the reality of it,
Yeah, I mean, I've been telling everyone to watch Walker for a little history lesson that's very relevant. Yeah, it's craziness that history just keeps repeating itself. It gets a little crazier each time.
And even though the film, I mean, the film, because when the film came out, one of the objections to it were the anachronisms, were the fact that the
Oh,
20th
right.
century kept creeping into a film set in the mid 19th century. But I don't think people are so upset by that now. I think people are more able to accommodate that. And also I think they pay off because it really is. It's not just an antique film. It's not a film that, say, a well-made film that an American studio might have made about these events. It's an anarchic and somewhat punky film
Yeah,
about these
definitely.
events, and maybe that's why it's lasted.
I think the anachronisms now, like, it just really makes the film because it makes it timeless. It's its own commentary that this does not happen in a vacuum. This is
Yeah,
kind of a timeless concept of manifest destiny is now just called something else now. It's just gonna
yeah.
be it's gonna happen over and over again. So I love that the anachronisms are in there. I'm really glad you made that choice. And I read that it was scripted. It wasn't just like a spontaneous idea.
Oh yeah, that was the thing. That was Rudy Wurlitzer, who's a wonderful screenwriter, and he had written Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid. And when Harry Dean Stanton introduced us, I thought this is the guy to write Walker, because it seemed that the theme of Walker was the same as the theme of Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, which is how these notable individuals achieve great fame and celebrity, um, but only really by climbing on top of a pile of bodies and really seeking their own deaths. But those don't come soon enough. And that's where our story takes place. The interim between them desiring their death and them finding it is the space of Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid and the space of Walker.
That's very true. And also I just want to point out that Marlee Matlin is broke my heart in that movie. And we just did a documentary about her. So like now I feel like very close to Marlee Matlin.
Excellent. Oh, excellent. She was great. She was a fantastic person.
She was
And she
perfect.
wrote an autobiography in which she said very nice things about working on Walker.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that was a big part of the documentary we did was I think her autobiography, her memoir. So check
She,
out Marlee
I,
Matlin, Not Alone Anymore.
Yeah,
I
we
definitely
released,
will.
that was in 2000, well, last year. We released it theatrically. It was a documentary called Not Alone Anymore, where she talks about her career and everything else. And it's a very good documentary. It's based on the book, I think. So
Mhm.
Great.
share it with me, Sean.
Great. Oh, I want to watch it. Please send me a copy. Please lend me a
Of
copy.
course, of
Yes, we
course.
definitely will. Oh yeah, when Ed Harris is kind of like signing over her coffin,
Oh,
I was moved by that. And he was very, very good in that role, in that scene,
yes.
particularly.
And also they have their love scene in her house in the room full of Walker's junk, and the music is Joe Strum, and it's all piano,
Yes.
and it's piano and violin, and it's just beautiful, and the scene is very touching and romantic. Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know Frank really wants to get into spaghetti western, so I think you guys have your
Let's do it.
10 that you've prepared. Shall we
Um,
get into that?
yeah. So I know, we both. I've watched spaghetti westerns since I don't remember. So I was a little boy, and the one that really made me recognize it as art was a Fistful of Dollars. When I saw that the first time, I was like, okay, this is different, because I had seen some earlier ones in the past. When I was younger, you don't see stuff in order. You see stuff out of order.
Yeah.
I had seen a very badly edited, when they used to show Good, Bad, and the Ugly on Channel 5. They would start it at the scene where he's dragging on the back of the mule and he's kicking and screaming. That whole opening sequence will be removed for editing, for time purposes and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So I actually didn't get to watch The Good, Bad, and the Ugly complete until like a couple of years later. But Fistful of Dollars, being that it was a shorter film, they used to play the best when it was a 2-hour window, because they wouldn't really edit the film at all, and they would show the complete thing. Um, So, I've always I'm kind of thought about what's my favorite and stuff like that. So I'm going to share my list of my biggest exclusion is Django. I'm not a big fan of that film. It's in the top, probably in the top 20, but it wouldn't make my top films. And my honorable mentions in no particular order are Day of Anger, Compañeros, Mercenary, Navajo Joe. That's 3 Corbucci's, and They Call Me Trinity. As far as my top 10 is concerned, I would go with the sequel to Trinity as my number 10 movie called, The Trinity Is Still My Name, which is really, I think, in a lot of ways better, as it was a better film than the original. My Name Is Nobody will be probably right after that, and then The Fistful of Dynamite, Death Rides a Horse, The Big Gun Down, and then the top 5 would be Great Silence, Fistful of Dollars, Once Upon a Time in the West, For a Few Dollars More, and then The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is my favorite. So that would be it's all of those films that are in the top 10 are classics. They're all great films, but the top 5 are pretty much masterpieces, so.
Yeah, it's funny, because I actually I went to see a double bill of A Fistful of Dollars and For a Few Dollars More in England. But I got there having missed the first film. And so I got there for A Few Dollars More. I saw that, and I thought that was one of the best Westerns ever. And then Fistful of Dollars, which I also enjoyed, but the first Italian Westerns, the first one.
When you see For a Few Dollars More, you see how much better a filmmaker he had become by the second movie.
Yes, within a year.
Within a year.
So much more time.
He was so much more comfortable editing and removing some of the flaws that were there in Fistful of Dollars and stuff like that. I mean, if you lived in America in 1967, Fistful of Dollars opened in the spring, For a Few Dollars More opened in the summer, and Good, Bad, and the Ugly was a Christmas. So in the same year, you got to see all 3 of the theaters, because they didn't come to America until later, so they all came the same year in America.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine going to the theaters back to back to back that quickly to see all 3 of those films.
Yeah.
And and they each one improve. There's like there's so much. They're like so technical, and in so many ways, each one is an improvement on the other one, which is very rare when it comes to trilogies, because in trilogies usually one of those is not going to be very good in the second or the third,
Yes, that's right.
But I remember seeing them at the Storium. They played at the American Museum of Moving Images. They played all three of them on a Sunday for 1 ticket. So I remember going to see them in the theaters, and it was an incredible experience, So
Wow, that's like 7 hours.
yeah. We got intermissions between each film. So
Frank, I'm curious why you don't like Django.
It's just too much, too over the top. I think this is the thing. I think where me and Alex kind of probably disagree on Corbucci. Corbucci just could go way too over the top, too operatic. It's just not realistic. A guy walking around with a coffin, and and it just the over the top violence, all of that. It was just not believable. It's not believable.
Is that the ear when the guy cuts off?
They cut the guy's ear off and make him beat his own ear. It's great.
You don't like that?
And I know you like the specialists too, and that even though I released it, I'm not a big fan of that either. So
well, I like there's an action scene in The Specialist that I really like, when Johnny Halliday has a fight with a character called Boot, and ends up like trapping Boot's head in the cash register or something, and it all seems to be a metaphor for, capitalism or something, and so I thought that was very entertaining. But I like Django because I like that the over the topness of it, and the and how it's a sea of mud, and it's all kind of interesting. But I think that the certainly The Great Silence is a better film.
Well, I think The Great Silence does it better. It has all of that stuff that you're talking about, Django, but it's just done better. Of course, the original version, not that crappy ending that they came up with in America.
Oh yeah, no, the real
Yeah.
version. Yeah.
But what would you say is your favorite spaghetti western if you had to rank some?
I kind of overlap with you a lot, really. I mean, my top 5 for a few dollars more: Once Upon a Time in the West, The Great Silence, Bullet for the General, and Requiescant.
Which one?
Requiescant,
Oh, okay.
which is directed by Carlo Lizani, and it has Lou Castel and Mark Damon. And Pasolini is in it in a small role. Pasolini plays a revolutionary priest.
Late 2026, maybe even 2027, very late 2026, we're going to be releasing a 4K restoration of Alberto De Martino's Django Shoot First.
Oh, great.
So it's being restored by Studio Canal, and they're probably going to get released it first, and then after they release it, we're gonna release it after. So that's one
Great.
that we're gonna do probably late next year sometime. So
Great. And really, and I agree with you about the other ones too. I mean, Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, Death Rides a Horse, Big Gun Down is a masterpiece. Death Sentence is a good film. I like Death Sentence. That's
and
a
the
lower
name
budget.
the name
weird one.
Sergio, you just think about it. You had Solima, you had
Yeah.
Corbucci, you had
All the
Leone, and
Yeah,
then you
the
had
three
Donato
Sergios.
too, who was
Yeah,
a great
the four
screenwriter.
Sergio.
So
Yeah.
it was pretty incredible, like that. There was 4 Sergios making spaghetti western.
Yeah.
You can't make a spaghetti western unless your name is Sergio.
No, that's right.
Well, actually, do you want to talk about your latest western, Alex? Dead Souls. So you can be named something else.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, Dead Souls is based on the book by Gogol, Dead Souls. And it's about a character who shows up in one of those weird little Western towns in the middle of nowhere and starts buying the names of dead Mexicans, paying money just for the names and birth dates of Mexicans. And this creates a cascade of events, and various murders take place, and there's much mayhem. And it's pretty entertaining. I mean, the way it turned out, it's actually pretty good, I think. It's played at a film festival in Almeria in the south of Spain, where the film was made, or partially made. It's played at the festival in São Paulo in Brazil. On the 1st, 3rd, and 4th of February of this year, it's playing at Rotterdam. And then on the 12th of February in San Francisco, we have our US premiere as the closing night film of the San Francisco Independent Film Festival at the Roxy Cinema in San Francisco. So that will be our US premiere. And it was shot partially in Almeria, where the spaghetti westerns were made, in the town where For a Few Dollars More was filmed, and partially in a town called Mescal outside Tucson in southern Arizona. So the cast is a sort of mixture of new people that I hadn't worked with before in Spain and in Arizona, and people that I hadn't worked with before, like Anders Foss and Dick Rude from Repo Man and Straight to Hell. Dick
nice.
Rude has returned from a long acting absence. Xander hasn't acted in a long time either, and they both come over very well in it.
He's in that
and
too.
then Del Zamora from Repo Man and all the other films I did.
Is Cy Richardson in it, and Miguel?
No, I couldn't drag Cy in because of technicalities of the Screen Actors Guild. There are some issues. It was a very low budget film, but to qualify as a super low budget film for SAG, for the Screen Actors Guild, you have to shoot entirely in the United States.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Yes, SAG has a lot of restrictions and a lot of rules.
And so, and that's a new rule. That rule didn't used to exist, but then we discovered that rule had come in, and we were already set up to shoot in Spain anyway. And we were paying people, but we weren't paying them a king's ransom. And so we couldn't do SAG in the end, which is a pity, because Miguel and Cy are honest, hardworking SAG actors and very talented ones.
They are. Well, congratulations on, the festival success, and it exceeded the Kickstarter campaign, so that's very exciting. And I hope to see
Yeah,
it in
and
the
it was
States.
made with Kickstarter. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
and that was great too. I
great.
mean, actually the system worked, and I think the film that came out was is a good one. I mean, all the reviews so far have been very, very long,
Very long.
for whatever that means. But all the reviews we've had are like paragraphs of analysis and speculation and stuff, which isn't
Interesting.
usual.
Well, I think that's a good thing. That means it got
Yeah,
people talking and thinking. It
yeah,
also, Dead Souls is a Joy Division. I'm wearing a Joy Division shirt. Also, a
yeah.
song that is very, very good. So that's the source material is very inspirational.
Yes, it is. It's a great book. It's really interesting, especially because it was never finished. It was meant to be 3 volumes, and the author only ever finished the first volume,
Oh,
wrote
right.
the second volume twice, burned it both times, but there's still fragments left. So I took some of those fragments as well for the script.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
Uh,
I watched the film and really enjoyed it, and I know that Alex and I have talked about maybe maybe us eventually distributing the film, but we're not. It's up to the other departments at this point, so that I've handed it off to them, and they got to take a look at it. So, but I watched it over this past weekend, and I really enjoyed it. There's some surprises
Great.
there, and that that I'll ask Alex about later. I don't want to give anything away.
Okay.
well, since this is a show about physical media, I have to ask, do you collect? Are you a collector? And can you tell, if you do, can you tell us a little bit about your collection?
Oh, I have a lot of spaghetti westerns, because I had a friend in Japan called Katsumi Ishikuma who put together a DVD thing called the or the Macaroni Western Bible.
Oh,
And
wow.
he tried to license all the Italian westerns for distribution in Japan, and he managed to license about 250. So I have the Macaroni Western Bible from this guy Hishikuma. But I also but then again, some of them he couldn't license. Some of them
Was
weren't
he the one
available, and
that
so
released those beautiful four disc cases?
yes, that's right. They all came in a box, so
Yeah, those
four
those
boxed sets of
those were
four
beautiful,
each.
beautiful sets. Yeah,
Yeah, but they took up so much room that
yeah.
I had to like take them all out and put them in folders. You know those folders that you can buy in the stationery store where you go in and you can put 4 CDs per page.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
because it was a beautiful collection, but it was taking up so much space. So anyway, so they're all in folders now. But what's on the shelf? I can tell you what's on the shelf right now. Wages of Fear. There Ain't No Candy Mountain. The film by Rudy Wurlitzer and Robert Frank. Veracruz, that's one of yours, I think.
Well,
Killer of Sheep.
Oh, nice. Killer of Sheep.
Oh, it's a great film, Killer of Sheep
did
by
you do
Charles
a
Burnett.
commentating for Veracruz? I think you did, right?
Yeah, and it's your copy. It's the Kino Lorber Veracruz. It's up there. And I've got 2 more that you sent me. The Roundup and Red and White. That's a great collection. That's a great pair of films. The cinematography in those is amazing. Um, and on the end of the shelf is The Criminal Life of Archibaldo de la Cruz by Luis Buñuel.
Oh, nice.
So that's what's on the shelf at the moment.
Well, thank you for sharing that. So our fans went crazy for the questions for your episode. We got a lot of questions, so I feel like we should use the rest of the time to answer some of those if that's okay with you.
Certainly.
Awesome. Let me pull it up. Yeah, we got a lot. And Frank, we have a few for you as well. So I'll just start with Oscar M is asking, what was it like to work with Phil Tippett on Mad God and also Dead Souls, right? He did a sequence for Dead Souls.
Yeah, I worked with Phil Tippett a couple of times because his guys also did stuff for Tombstone Rashomon as well. They
Oh,
did visual
okay.
effects for that film. And we were originally going to work together on Mars Attacks because I had come up with the bubblegum cards and a script. And John Davison, who later produced RoboCop, or who had produced RoboCop, was going to be the producer, and Phil Tippett was going to do the visual effects. But sadly, that did not come about. But because of that, I've known Phil for a long time, and he hired me as an actor for Mad God. And so I just showed up and did what he told me to do.
Such a
Like a
good
good
movie.
actor
What a
should.
movie. That
It's
is
a good movie.
what a crazy, crazy
It's
movie.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so Jeff is asking, will there ever be a director's cut release of Repo Man?
Oh, I think it is the director. Repo Man is the director's cut. I mean, the Repo Man version that played in the theaters when the film came out, and then came out on VHS, that's the director's cut. I mean, there are a lot of scenes that aren't in the film, which are available as additional elements.
I
But I
guess
don't think
you're asking if there's going to be an extended cut or something like that. But
I don't think there's any need for it, really. I mean,
fans sometimes don't understand that a lot of times, just because there's deleted scenes, that doesn't mean that they're deleted without the director's consent. You know, a lot of those scenes are
Yes,
deleted
exactly.
by
You're
the
right.
director. So
I mean, I think ideally a film should be 85, 90 minutes long.
I
You
agree.
know?
Joe Torres asked,
I'm not gonna pick on Marvel comic films because I do enjoy them, but being 3 hours long, you know, it's just,
No.
it's
a
just
lot, it's not just Marvel, a lot of films
no,
these
I know
days.
everything is 3 hours long. It's just like
Yeah.
it's like every movie you
Like a
watch, like
dread.
comedies over 2 hours, 2 hour 15-minute comedy. I mean, are you kidding me?
Well, the Scorsese about the oil with Robert De Niro, about the oil,
Oh,
the oil of
Killers
the
of the
Indians being
Flower
stolen.
Moon.
Yeah, I mean, that would have been a really
3.5
good movie if it was like
Yeah,
an hour and a
would
half,
put
an
me
hour
to
and three
sleep.
quarters.
But I couldn't deal with stuff like that. I just like I don't have no patience for those 4-hour films that
No.
wall to wall talking, and so.
Joe Tora is asking, I know you're a huge fan / scholar of spaghetti westerns. What would be your first choice for most underrated spaghetti, and which one would you recommend to someone new to the genre to watch first?
Oh, if they haven't seen any spaghetti westerns, they should watch it. They own it. They should watch For a Few Dollars More or A Fistful of Dollars, first of all. And underrated, one we didn't mention was Django Kill. I'm very fond of Django Kill. Se Se Vivo Spara by Giulio Questi. But that's not really underrated. A lot of people like that.
Is that the one with Thomas Millian?
Yes, that's with Thomas Millian in that really weird, creepy town. And then Roberto Camardiel shows up in a white suit, and all his men are dressed in black, and it's very there's a lot of homoerotic weirdness and stuff. It's really good film.
Are you a fan of Sonny and Jed?
Not so much, no.
Yeah,
What do you think of it?
It's a strange movie, yeah.
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 The very last Western that Corbucci did, What Am I Doing in the Middle of the Revolution? I thought that was all right.
Which one?
What Am I Doing in the Middle of the Revolution?
Yes, yeah.
With
That's
Mastroianni.
Then he started doing a lot of those Terence Spencer movies, right? Like Crime Busters and
then that's right, he did the modern day like cop
Super Fuzz
movies
and all of that, yeah.
Yes, that's right.
This question is from Stephen Romano. He's asking, on Sid and Nancy, you often state that the fantasy ending was something forced on you and you wish you hadn't done it. What would your ending have been? I guess he's referencing the taxi going up
Yeah.
the sky.
Oh, no, but I wouldn't say it was I don't think I've said it was forced on us. I think that Abby Wool, the screenwriter, and I forced it upon ourselves. Nobody made us have that ending. But we were sentimental, and we thought it was a good ending, But I think it would have been, in retrospect, it would have been better to have a more brutal ending. Sid Vicious lying dead in a pool of blood, But, we went the romantic route, but it wasn't forced on us. We did it consciously, and that was even worse.
Well, ultimately, it's a love story, so I think it makes sense. And originally, it was going to be called Love Kills. So
that's right.
The ending makes sense. And actually, I'm noticing now there's a trend. The Repo Man ends with a car in the sky as well. Is that just a coincidence, or is there something to that?
Oh, the car doesn't go in the sky in Sid and Nancy, though. The car just drives away on Earth, I think. It doesn't go in the sky, does it? That'd be cheating.
I didn't think it did, but a lot of reviewers and a lot of places say that it goes into the sky, into heaven. But I didn't. I mean, I rewatched it just recently, and I'm like, I don't see that. It just drives off.
You know what? The piece of music that plays at the end of the film that was done by Dan Wool of Pray for Rain is called Taxi to Heaven.
Oh,
So
makes
maybe
sense.
they had the album.
Maybe, yeah, or they're conflating it or something.
Yeah, or they're getting it mixed up with Grease,
Maybe. Or Repo Man, I don't know.
or Repo Man.
Which one of the best endings ever with that glow in the dark green car. So good.
Yeah, it's a good ending. Thank you.
This question is for Frank. Bill Greco is asking, when Kino Lorber restores a film, are all technologies tried, like Dolby Vision, HDR, etc., and decided upon for final results? I ask because I wonder if at times something like Dolby Vision may not produce better results than not using it at all.
I've talked about Dolby Vision in the past. I'm not a huge fan of Dolby Vision. I think, to be honest, I actually prefer SDR over HDR. But HDR10 is fine. I don't think Dolby Vision, but it's just what the fans expect now. They want everything to include Dolby Vision, and of course we're always asked to do also Dolby Atmos, but it just adds to the cost of restoration. And that's another thing that I know some fans sometimes bring up, like, oh, you guys didn't do a full restoration. Well, a full restoration will cost 6 to 7 figures, and we cannot do that for Uncle Buck, so if I was releasing the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, then I could see us, with the studio's help and everybody else spending that much on a movie. But people expect everything to be fully restored, and that's just not the case. That's never gonna happen. So
Got it. That makes sense. This question could be for both of you. RJ asks, what is your favorite Kurosawa film?
Bikiru.
Hidden Fortress. It's just, I really enjoy that one. But Yojimbo too. I mean, Seven Samurai is right up there too.
And Yojimbo, and the Seven Samurai.
Yes. Yojimbo is Buffoni is just so great. He's so badass. I mean, he is the Japanese Clint Eastwood. That's pretty much he is. So I think so I would say those ones. But I also love the operatic, incredible, the attack sequence and Throne of Blood, the battle scenes and Ran and Kagemusha.
Ran and Kagemusha,
those things, though, they're like, you get mesmerized watching that. It's like, so yeah, he was a great filmmaker, one of the all-time greats, without a doubt. So,
and Alex, one of your films directly references Tombstone Rashomon, so I know that he must be a huge influence for you.
I mean, that's the thing. It's just all the films that Frank just mentioned, and you can go on. You can keep on naming Kurosawa films like Rashomon and Throne of Blood and Ran and Kagemusha. And he made so many films, high and low, that were masterpieces, more than anybody. I mean, he was an incredible filmmaker.
Yeah, he was one of the all-time greats, without a doubt.
Yeah.
We should do another episode of your top Kurosawa films and talk about that.
So many of them.
There's so many, yeah.
Patrick J. Oh, actually, Don is asking. I'm curious about this too. What music are you listening to now?
Me? I've been listening to some music by a guy called Javier Arnau, who's a composer, guitar guy, and composer who lives down in Almeria. And I met him because he played a supporting role on the film that we just did when we shot in Spain. And so I've now got these 3 of Javier's CDs, which I've been listening to. So I'm listening to the music of Javier Arnau, which is kind of pretty funky guitar stuff.
Is it like Spanish guitar, like traditional ones?
Sometimes, but then he gets very funky and gets very experimental, and so he's got a whole mixture of stuff going on.
Very cool.
And he likes, and obviously there's Italian Western references in his music because he comes from the desert of southern Spain.
Are you still listening to any punk? New or
Oh yeah, Oh, but I mean, I never stopped. I'm still listening to punk. I'm still listening to, Morricone music, Chumbawamba music.
Patrick J is asking, were there any punk movies before Repo Man that inspired or offended you?
No, I can't think of any that offended me. Penelope Spheris made The Decline of Western Civilization. And at the same time as we were making Repo Man, she was making Suburbia, also in Los Angeles. I mean, there was some kind of fake punky movie, like when Hollywood tried to do a punky movie, that kind of thing is normally pretty fake.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, there was a little bit of punk cinema going on. I remember there was a guy called Lech Kowalski, made a couple of films. He did a documentary in which he interviewed Sid and Nancy. And he made a drama called Gringo about junkies in New York that had a punk aspect to it. Can you think of any other punk films?
From back
Or
then,
films that aspired to have a punk thing? Yeah, from back in those days, from the early 80s, late 70s.
not from back then. Maybe a little bit later on. I mean, Suburbia is a good one.
Yeah, Suburbia, yeah.
I mean, later on there was
Derek Jarman's films. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, that had kind of
Derek,
had
the English director, like The Last of England and some of his, even, Caravaggio's got some punky
Caravaggio.
quality,
That has a lot of
Yeah, Derek
anachronisms,
Jarman. And has anachronisms, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, honestly, when I think punk films, I think you, so I don't I maybe I need to branch out a little bit more.
I think Jarman was into it too. I think he was definitely into the sort of the movement of it. And Julian Temple, of course, did Rock and Roll Swindle and did Absolute Beginners. So he had a kind of funky thing going.
And I guess later on there were like New York filmmakers like Beth B and part of like the underground scene. But okay. This question is from Chris Means. 4K Outlaw is asking, what was it like working with Harry Dean Stanton?
Harry Dean. Oh, it's kind of like having a really mean uncle that you have to deal with all day. That you're put in charge of, because the rest of the family don't want to deal with it. But it also helps that the really mean uncle is a fantastic actor, one of the best actors ever.
No.
And so the fact that Harry was kind of squirrely and complicated and would get mad and stuff, really, he was also a brilliant actor and very thoughtful about the character that he was playing. He would reconstruct his dialogue. He'd say, I'd like to consolidate all of this, that line and that line and that line and put them all here, but you'd think, okay, yeah, all right.
Would you be okay with that? I mean, not every actor, I'm guessing, like when it's someone like Harry Dean Stanton, you're like, okay,
Well, because he knew what he was doing. We had a lot of experience as an actor, and he knew what he was doing. So when he said, I want to do this, so the thing about the Repo Code, when Harry Dean tells the story of the Repo Code, he'd actually pulled that together from various lines of dialogue that I'd given his character. Yeah. And he made it all into one statement of policy, So we were tremendously lucky to have Harry. And he gave such a great performance,
I read somewhere or saw in another interview you referred to him as an Old West skeleton, and that made me laugh out loud.
That's what my wife said, because we weren't together at the time, but she had been to a party and met him. And she called me afterwards as soon as she got home, and she said, I was just at a party with this guy called Harry Dean Stanton, and he has that Old West skeleton-y look that you're looking for Repo Man.
It's such a perfect but loving description.
The other thing about Harry was that he was very into coyotes. He really used to piss off his neighbors up in the Hollywood Hills, because he would feed the coyotes, which you're not supposed to do, But Harry did it. He put food out for the coyotes and felt very identified with them. And I have a friend who went to his cremation in the Valley in Los Angeles. And when they came out of the interment, to go to the parking lot. There was a coyote standing right outside
No,
the building. Yeah, and she took a picture of it. So
it was him. It was
it
him.
was him,
He's
or it was
back.
one of his pals. Yeah, yeah,
Wow, that's amazing. I feed the
yeah.
crows in our neighborhood, so maybe I'll come back as a crow.
That wouldn't be bad. Crows are great.
I love
I mean,
crows.
they're very
Very
aggressive until they
smart.
dominate the environment, but they are great.
Crows
So
are smart.
oh, sorry, what?
I said crows are very smart. They're very intelligent.
Very,
Yes,
very smart. They remember faces. They reward
yes,
you. If you feed them, they'll start bringing you trinkets. I've yet to see
yes.
that, but we feed them now.
They've done that for us. We would feed them nuts, and they would drop off little bits of metal. If they found like a screw or something like that,
Mhm.
or a piece of wire, they would drop it in front of the house.
And you can train them. You can start giving them better snacks when they start bringing you things like actual
Money,
monetary,
actual
money,
money.
and
Yes,
you
yes.
start trading up the snacks, and they realize, oh, okay, this is what you
And
want. Yeah, they're very smart.
yeah.
So this is a bit of a love letter of a question. So bear with me. From Brett Warwick, he's obviously a big fan of yours. He says, Alex, I have recently been working my way through your entire filmography in preparation for the release of Dead Souls. It's difficult to describe what it is I love about your films, but there is, for a lack of better critique, a certain charm about them. They're films by people who love to make films, and that shines through in every frame. Not a dud in the bunch. I even enjoyed the studio truncated version of The Winner, and Three Businessmen could become a Christmas time favorite. Regardless, Alex Cox will seemingly have Repo Man written on his tombstone. Why do you suppose Repo has become so ingrained in cinematic pop culture and achieved its current plateau of cult statusdom? If you could pick one of your other films for Repo fans to experience, which one would it be and why? All right.
Repo Man's popular because of the punk rock element, because it was the album was like a kind of a sampler of West Coast punk, the very first one, and the very first introduction that people had to Black Flag, Suicidal Tendencies, Circle Jerks, and Plugs, and so yeah, and it had a great song by Iggy as well.
Mhm.
So it was, I think it's the punk aspect of Repo Man that has made it endure. Um, and if I were to suggest that people should see another, if someone's enjoyed Repo Man and want to see another film, straight to hell.
Definitely.
Alex, what would if you had to pick a film? It's very hard to pick, I guess, between all your films. But what's the film that you're the most proud of?
Um, I think Walker, because it was the most difficult and because it really did turn out pretty good. But I think also Highway Patrolman, because on a technical level, it's really interesting how every scene is a single master, you know,
Oh.
that there isn't any internal cutting. There's no close up, close up, close up, or anything like that. Every scene takes place in what the Mexicans called a plano sequencia. And that took a lot of planning and was more demanding on the crew and the actors, but it really made an amazing looking film. So,
Somebody actually
yeah.
had a question about Highway Patrolman. It was related to what you were just. I'm looking for it now about the long takes. Um, well, I'll come across it, I'm sure. But I want to throw a question out to Frank as well. From Jay Amernick, with the Netflix takeover of Warner Brothers. Actually, this was asked a while ago, so there may have been more developments now. But basically, with the consolidation and monopolization of streaming, what does this mean for physical media?
Well, that's not happened yet. Supposedly now Paramount's also involved with
Yeah,
what's the company's called, Sky something. So
Skydance.
yeah, Skydance. So there's also a chance of them acquiring Warner Brothers. As far as physical media is concerned, it'll probably be better if um, Paramount and Skydance acquire Warner Brothers than Netflix. But physical media is a slowly declining business for the last 20 years. So, and it's going to continue to decline. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be a situation where we're going to see a real revamp of the formats, or people all of a sudden say, "Oh, wait a minute." It's not, the people always try to bring up vinyl and stuff like that. Vinyl is very, it's a little, it's like a, it's a hard thing to compare because it's just there's this nostalgic thing about vinyl, about how you just the needle hitting the record and the sound of it and all that stuff. The music, so sometimes actually there's certain type of music that sounds so much better on vinyl than they do on digital discs. So I just don't see that as something that people will say, well, I'll go back to VHS because VHS will know. There's no such thing. VHS does not look as good or sound as good as DVD or Blu-ray or even 4K. So I wish there was a world where people would be more into collecting and people will be buying more discs and that we will continue flourishing. But physical media is, like I said, I've known this for a long, long time. I just didn't believe it. There were people that were telling me in the early 2000s that by 2005 there will be no more physical media, and I was like, well, that's bullshit because that's not gonna. That I knew that the collectors were not gonna just all of a sudden disappear.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, it's like a slowly declining business, and we just have to deal with that. So
Well, I'm seeing a lot of chatter on social media because of this continuous consolidation of power with these big streamers that people are turning to physical media. It's really kind of galvanizing people to start their collections because nobody can take that away from them. It's something that you own.
if you have a space, I think owning, and even if you don't, like what just Alex suggested as something, I know, but some collectors would call that blasphemous to throw away the original cases and all of that. But if you really don't have space, then you could always keep the movie in a big binder. Like you have a big binder.
That's what I did with the Italian Westerns. I put them all in a binder.
200 movies. You have your favorite movies there forever. So whenever you feel that, you want to get that moment where you're like, oh, I need to watch this movie again. You don't have to go and look for it on streaming,
right?
And be forced to pay a fee to watch it. Well, we have it right there in your collection, and you pop it in. Like for me, there's some movies I kind of watch every year. They're not the greatest movies of all time. They're just the movies that they're like my comfort movies. Whatever they are. And
Love Actually, right, Frank?
not Love Actually.
Exactly.
But Love Actually is not a bad movie. I just it's not. I don't think there's any. But I can tell you one of the movies that I watch almost every year, once at least, is in Where Eagles Dare. It's just one of those movies that just it just works for me. I just love the casting of Eastwood and Burton together, and they're so different from each other. It's almost like, and it's like one of those films where a lot of those type of films when you watch it, like there's no way, but everything they kind of set together, the way it's been edited, it's plausible. Like it's plausible for these 4 or 5 guys to go in there and get away, because it's all planned really well. So I really love watching. I love films that are shot in snow and stuff like that. There's something about it. If it's snowing outside, it's always cool to put on a movie with a lot of snow in it.
Ice Station Zebra.
Death Hunt, and there's
The end of The Shining, at least.
Well, The Shining has a lot of snow in it, yeah, of course. But there's other ones too. Runaway Train, stuff like that.
Yeah. But the other thing about the DVDs and the Blu-rays is that they have the additional elements.
Yes.
Because if you're streaming, you see the film if it's there, if it's available.
Right.
But you don't hear the commentary, you don't see the making of, you don't see the trailer, you don't see the other things that if it's a good DVD, they put together good elements.
Well, especially in some cases, you actually have the original director's commentaries. Like watching The Train and hearing Frankenheimer talk about The Train, it's priceless. I mean, he's been gone for a long, long time, but that commentary will live on forever. And it's like, and you could only hear it if you have the disc. You're not gonna watch it, hear it. So there's always that. I wish all directors the commentaries for their movies, but some directors don't enjoy doing them. So
I feel like physical media is just a more of a celebration of the film, whereas, and not all streaming is like this. We obviously Kino has our own streaming, but in a lot of ways, streaming commodifies the film and it just turns it into just another option for people. Like they just overload people with all these options to watch, and it's no longer like a real celebration of that film itself. But anyway,
there is something about pulling the film off the shelf, opening the case, popping in the disc, and playing it, because you know, and then decide if you want to watch some of the interviews or the extras and stuff like that. Um, some of the worst movies ever made have the best extras. It's because everybody's available and everybody wants to talk. But so sometimes actually you pop in a movie that's not very good and you watch it, but it has a pace to it, so you enjoy it, you watch it, and then you watch all the extras. You could spend like 4 or 5 hours doing that, and it's a lot of fun. It's better than channel surfing and running into all the horrible news in the world, you know. So
I found the question about Highway Patrolman from Nick. He says, "Hi Alex, big fan of your films, especially Repo Man, which I count as one of my favorites. I wanted to ask about a different film of yours that I love, Highway Patrolman. I found your use of long takes in it to be not only extremely effective, but also innovative, as it is now a technique that has become more widely adopted. I'm curious what inspired you to deploy these shots, and if there were any directors and films that served as an impetus."
Oh yeah, because at that time in Mexico, the director Arturo Ripstein and other directors were doing that. They were filming entire movies in plano sequencia, in long takes, that were only limited by the length of the reel, of how much film there was in the reel itself. You know, so in theory, you could have an 11-minute scene, you know, before you had to change reels. And so I was just doing what Ripstein was doing. It looked like a very good style to make a film in, because I'd got very bored with contemporary film language. I mean, you could sit in the cinema and snap your fingers and the cut would come. Snap your fingers and the cut will come. Snap your fingers, cut to the wide shot. You know, and it had become so predictable, film editing, that getting rid of all that internal cutting and having to and saying that every scene, the assignment is to cover it in one shot, probably a moving shot. That was very exciting, very interesting. We were lucky to have a cinematographer who was experienced at doing that, had shot films that way previously, and was incredibly strong. So he would handhold everything all day long. You know,
Wow.
Miguel
but
Garcon.
also I think it's you know, the fact that you actually have beautiful shots that, you know, nobody will watch those shots and say, oh, I need this to be cut. We need to cut away from this or end, because it's like a continuously beautiful shot. Like you know, I don't want to bring it up, but that ending of Electric Light and Blue, you know, that ending,
Oh yeah,
on and on and on. It's like one of those great endings that you will always stay with you know, because but you know, Francisco Rossi sometimes does that in some of his films,
yes,
where he would have, you know, real long takes, you know, and stuff like that, where a shot will just stay on the screen forever. But I think it works in some cases, and sometimes it doesn't work, right? I mean, when you say quick editing, one of the biggest problems I used to have with Tony Scott was his films we just way too many cuts.
yeah,
Like he would sometimes just fall in love with that, and he was a great director, and I love a lot of his films. But the opening of Man on Fire is just like
Yeah, it was very right.
cut, and like I hope the rest of this movie is not like that, and it wasn't. Thank God. But but he used to do that sometimes. So.
I think Kino Lorber has the longest, the film with the longest record. It holds the record for longest single take, Russian Ark. And it's
yes,
90 minutes or 90 something,
yes.
all one take, thousands of extras. Crazy what they pulled off.
Yes.
Very cool. Well, this is a fun question for both of you guys. Where did it go? From Kenneth. Alex, what is your alcoholic beverage of choice these days? And if you were pounding rounds with Frank with money on the line to see who could outdrink who, what type of shot would you choose? I want to hear both of your choices.
Oh God. Well, probably a nice West Coast IPA, followed by a glass of stout.
Okay.
I don't want to be chugging down loads of liquor. I'm 72 years old. It would be
Well,
counterproductive.
yeah, I used to drink a lot more. So I've been known to drink a whole bottle of tequila playing poker. So
Wow.
so if I have one or two slices of pizza before, I don't get drunk. I'm a big guy, so I could handle it. Health reasons now I don't drink anymore.
Oh,
So
Good for you.
But the main thing is that if I was hanging out with Alex and we were gonna have some shots, so some tequila, maybe we'll do a few shots of tequila, and I remember when I interviewed Scott Wilson years ago, the great character actor, and he told me that they had a Saturday night poker game that they would go play, and Harry Dean Stanton was part of that.
Ah,
I don't know who else was it, but I've heard that like Peter Fonda and a few other people were there. Like they would all get together on Saturday night and play poker. So
Wow.
I'm not one of those people that would ask somebody, say, can I go? Because I just feel like that's very rude to do that, But I would have loved to have been there as just a fly on the wall to just hang out and watch those guys play poker and talk, and talk, So
Yeah.
my wife was a cocktail waitress here in Southern Oregon, and one of the regular guys who came to the cocktail bar was Jack Elam. You remember him?
He was
from the
great.
beginning of Once Upon a Time in the West, the guy whose eyes pointed in two directions. And by this time, Jack Elam must have been 85 or 90 years old. And he and the sheriff of Jackson County and a couple of their friends would gather to drink and gamble in the back of the restaurant, playing poker. And they were all kind of drunk and irascible. And so one day they sent a new employee into the back room to give Jack his drink, and 30 seconds later, she came out of there in tears saying, I quit. So they go to my wife, Todd, you got to deal with it. So Todd goes in the back with the drinks that she knows they all want. And Jack Elam looks up and sees her and goes, the real cocktail waitress.
Jack Elam was one of the great film noir actors, Kansas City Confidential and all those other things. Then, it's kind of funny because he was such a heavy, he always played bad guys in film, and then became really more popular for his comedies, and like Support Your Local Sheriff and Support Your Local Gunfighter, and then at Cannonball Run movies, and all of that. But if you watch some of his earlier stuff, he could be intimidating and scary for like a scrawny little guy, because he had he had a great face, So
yes,
and they don't have actors like that anymore. It's just he was there were so many of those type of actors in the old days that you just don't see anymore, and he was one of those guys. And
yes.
Alex, do you have time for like one or two more questions, and then we can wrap up?
Certainly.
Okay, thank you so much for your time. We just have we've had so many submissions. Mitch Boyce is asking, what was it like working with the late Michael Nesmith as the producer of Repo Man?
He was great. He was actually pretty great. I mean, because he was coming from a completely different place, because he was kind of more interested in country than other types of music. He wasn't really interested in pop music or rock and roll. He was more country. And he said, Cox, don't think for one moment that you're going to get a whole load of punk rock music in this film, because it's not going to be that way. And then, but little by little, one song at a time, I would introduce these songs, and Nesmith liked them all.
Oh, wow.
And often found them funny, because a lot of those songs, like Institutionalized and TV Party and stuff, they're pretty funny.
Yeah.
And we ended up with a completely punk rock score, and Nesmith was cool with it. So I thought that Nesmith was A-okay.
And pretty soon he was humming, we're going to have a TV party
party tonight. All right.
Yes. Right. Dallas. Yeah. Well, he actually wrote one of my favorite songs. Now I'm blanking out. Different Drum.
Oh.
Yeah. I really like that song, which was also covered a bunch of times.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. We have so many. James Upchurch, if you made Repo Man for 2025, what changes would you make, if you would make any changes?
Oh, there's a script. Don't worry. There's a script. It's called Repo Man 2, The Wages of Beer.
I was going to ask about that. Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, it takes place in the very near future, where the Otto has returned from space, but he's only, even though he's been gone for 40 or 50 years, he's only aged 90 minutes. So Otto will be played by Kiowa Gordon, who's a very good actor, and Miller, who also has only aged 90 minutes, or maybe has gone in reverse, would be played by Zahn McClarnon. So it's the Native American Repo Man 2,
Oh,
And the notion is that all they do is sit at their computers all day long and take control of cars, render them driverless mode, and send them to the pound or the police station with the malefactor trapped inside that Tesla. So that's the thesis of Repo Man 2, The Weighted of Beer.
new technology to kind of repossess these cars.
Yes.
Okay. Is that in development right now?
Oh, the script's done. The actors are ready. The producers, Lorenzo O'Brien, my old friend, we're just waiting for a few dollars more.
A few dollars more. Well, I'm very happy that Dead Souls wasn't your last movie, because I want to keep watching your movies.
Oh, thank you. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Let's see. Michael's asking, is there a spaghetti western not available on Blu-ray or DVD that you would like Kino Lorber to release and then supply the commentary for?
I don't know, because there are so many, because not only is there Kino Lorber, but there are these other companies which release a number of Italian westerns in the US. I have no idea what's available and what's not anymore. What do you think, Frank? Is there something missing that should be distributed?
No, I don't. I mean, if I had an option of releasing some stuff, but most of those titles have been previously released. Like, I would love to do the True Trinity movies. I think those will be kind of. My Name Is Nobody on 4K would be really great. But
oh yeah. Oh, what about Don't Touch the White Woman? Have you seen that?
No, I've seen it. I know, but
yeah, it's totally mad. It's a French Western, but it
right.
takes place in Paris. And it's got all these French actors. Catherine Deneuve is in it. She plays Calamity Jane. There's Buffalo Bill, Wild Bill Hickok, all
Is
played by
Marcello
Frenchmen.
Mastroianni in it?
Yes, Mastroianni's in it. That's right.
Yeah. I remember seeing that on VHS when I was a kid. So
it's crazy. It's
Yeah.
really insane.
There's a movie that I've seen, and I've seen it when I was really young. But I don't know if it was even an Italian Western, because there were so many countries doing spaghetti Westerns in those days so there's a movie that I've seen and I still haven't found it. You know what I'm saying? It's like one of those films that the opening, how it starts. It's like in the opening of the film, the guy's wife and kids are murdered, and his arm is cut off, and then he learns how to shoot with his left arm, I think, because I think it was and then and the rest of the movie I don't remember that much, but I know it's like a revenge Western, and he partners up with a younger guy, and then like I said, there's so many movies that I would read the synopsis and say, oh yeah, that's the one, and when I watch it, I'm like, nope, that's not it.
Is this a Mexican Western called El Tunco Maclovio?
It could be that. I mean, what is it called? El Tunco?
El Tunco Maclovio. Tunco Maclovio. I think El Tunco might mean the one-armed guy, but I might be wrong about that. But I've seen that film.
I mean, like I said, it's a movie that I saw as a kid. You have a different, understanding of film when you're watching stuff. It may be, I might watch it now and say, well, what a piece of crap. But when I watched it as a kid, I thought it was great, And
it's an interesting film.
Yeah.
The director of that is a guy called Mariscal, and he also made another film called Los Marcados, another Mexican Western shot in the locations which the Americans had built in northern Mexico, in like Durango.
What's the director's name?
Mariscal. I think his first name is Fernando Mariscal. And they were brothers. He had a brother, though, so I might be getting the brother's name mixed up. But if you look up Tunco Maclovio or Los
I'll take a look
Marcados,
at that. Maybe it could be that. Like I said, it's a film that I watched when I was 6 or 7, and and I still haven't found it. So. Just like there was a Bud Spencer's Terrence Hill movie that I saw as a kid that I when I saw every Terrence Hill Bud Spencer film, I was like, well, that's not, none of them was that. Then I figured out it was probably one of those Michael Colby, Paul Smith films that were done in Israel to cash on that. They both look like Hill and Spencer.
And
they made like 6 or 7 movies together, and those are like almost impossible to find, so.
Well, we're coming up on time. This is usually an hour, and we've done an hour and a half. That's a testament to how many questions were submitted and how much, how much I wanted to talk to you as well. So
Great.
just want to say, yeah, thank you so much. I'm gonna just do my little outro and then we can wrap up. But yeah, thank you so much, Alex, for being here. It's truly been an honor to talk to you about your films, about your work, about everything. And hopefully we can continue working with you, Kino Lorber and yourself. And thank you, Frank, as always, for everything and for everything you do for physical media. So everybody, you can find some of the titles we discussed today, like Straight to Hell and Highway Patrolman, along with thousands of others at kinolorber.com. That link is in the description below. And while you're there, be sure to sign up for our newsletter if you haven't already, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and follow us on social. So thank you so much, everyone, for watching, and we will see you next month.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you very much
so
for
much,
being here.
Alex.
It's it was an honor to do this, and I'm we're going to be
Oh,
working
great.
together on a lot of different projects, hopefully in 2026. So
Yes, and
I
we'll
look
send
forward to it. Thank you.
we'll send you some stuff after this. So look
Yeah,
out.
yeah. Send me some swag.
Yeah, for sure.
Great.
It's coming
Thank you
your
very
way.
much.
Thanks, Alex.
Bye
All
for
right.
now. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye, Frank.
bye.